All right, everybody, welcome to today's show. Not really kind of in the mood for introduction, just not one of those intro days today. We got chill show today. Get Zach back with us, and I'm really excited to have Zach here today, actually, because we are going to start today by talking a little bit about Joe Biden's gun violence legislation. He's taken all of these big, like the perfect, liberal priorities that are like inoffensive. They're not like really challenging established sources of power, but they're what a Democratic president should and would and really oftentimes tries to do. So, yeah, he had a little Rose Garden ceremony. He called gun violence in the United States an international embarrassment and took a set of initial steps on Thursday to address the problem, starting with a crackdown on the proliferation of so-called ghost guns or firearms assembled from kits. So that is, what do you think about that, first of all?
It's not even a problem. I don't even understand. I mean, that's like if you had like a poverty problem and you were like, oh, like this one guy poisoning some food at a restaurant. Like, we need to stop this guy. Like,
well, yeah,
ghost
obviously,
guns
like the
have
thing
killed
is,
nobody. I don't even know what he's talking about.
yeah, it's definitely not an aggressive action, but it's definitely a substantive action, and it is. I would say
not
it's
at all. What do you
it's
mean?
an action that's probably going to be more likely to be targeting illicit users. So that
Well,
should be something that gun people support.
it's definitely more of like a pragmatic approach, but in terms of its actual effectiveness in stopping gun violence, it's pretty negligible. I mean,
Yeah, in terms of like,
nobody.
it's going to really stop the Stephen Paddocks of the world. I would say, like those people who are, well, even though he didn't really use a one of those ghost guns, but it's more likely to stop like the criminals. Would you agree with that?
No,
As in the
because
mass shooters.
no, it's not gonna stop that at all. No mass shooting has ever been committed with a ghost gun, to my knowledge, and
So
the
what are
reason for
ghost guns
that,
used for?
nothing. They don't get used ever. Their point is just sort of like an FU to the ATF and like sort of a fight for gun rights. They're not actually using anything because they're not nearly as effective as just standard
Normal.
firearms
Yeah.
that are licensed.
So like these
Nobody
are
uses
so ghost
them.
guns are less good. Like they're knockoffs in a way.
Well, it sort of depends on what you mean by ghost gun. If he's talking about like 3D printed guns, then like yeah, they are much. I
No,
mean,
so this is firearms assembled from kits. So like what I'm imagining is like you
like
get
he
all the
means like an
parts.
80%. Yeah, it's still not as good as like an actual manufactured firearm for obvious reasons. So I guess this would be like it's sort of putting the cart before the horse in a way, right? Because I mean, if if you want to like ban the sale of like I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but I can't think of one. Like it's putting the cart before the horse because oh, okay, I have a good analogy. Imagine like there was a lot of car accidents, right? And you banned like ATVs or whatever, right? Well, it doesn't really matter because I can still just go buy a car. So a bunch of people are getting shot up with licensed guns. The stopping unlicensed guns is going to do nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the like people aren't having any kind of trouble licensing a gun and then using it to go do awful things like mass shootings.
Well, it's not like a license, it's like a registry, but it's not like actually it is. It's basically like it just means that it has a serial number, right? So if you sell a firearm and it has to have a serial number, it has to be sold through like an FA or sometimes through a gun show. But basically, the point is the U.S. government like knows that it's being created, so that is the difference. But all those guns are made from real gun manufacturers, and so they're good guns. Most guns, I mean, depending on which gun you're talking about. If you're talking about an 80%, which is um like the lower of an AR, right? So that's what's actually regulated by the ATF. So only one part of a gun is regulated and has a serial number. It's called the lower, Everything else you can actually purchase online with a credit card or anything like that.
And then so you
Because
can
it's
get those
technically,
kits.
yeah, well, not really. That's different. Like I don't know what he means by the kits exactly. I think he's talking about 80%, but basically, anything that isn't the lower, which is where like your trigger is not actually considered a firearm. It's effectively just a piece of plastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if he's talking about 80%, which are the lowers, those have to be like CNC milled or whatever. So, like, if you're a criminal, like nobody is buying 80% and going to like a CNC thing and getting it milled out and then buying all the parts for a gun and assembling the gun. Like you could just buy a gun.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's
this
like it's
isn't
very easy.
helpful.
Like you don't see it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I do take your
you
point there. You don't see it
you don't even
happening.
have to buy it legally. Like you could just buy it from a criminal.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot easier ways to get through that.
Like
But
there's 400 million guns in the country. Like you really think a guy who wants to commit a mass shooting is like gonna do all of this to get a your gun when he could literally just buy one? Like
yeah, that's normally
you,
just based on like the type of people who are mass shooters. They awfully
uh,
don't go
I
through that
mean,
trouble, and it's so
this would be a
easily accessible.
solution. Yeah, this would be a solution if like you ban. Obviously, I'm not advocating for this, but this would be like a solution if you banned like all guns, and then
Like
there
if
was
we were
still
in
gun violence.
a much
Like,
different place than we
yeah,
are.
like doing this now is stupid as hell. Like it does nothing. Literally, like no, I'm not exaggerating. Like nobody dies
It's
from
like
this.
banning bump stocks.
No, well that's different because a lot of people did die.
Yeah,
I mean,
obviously with that, but I'm not even sure they actually ended up getting banned. Like that was
it was
never
like a
followed
state
through.
issue. But the point is, like, literally, no one is dying from this. So it's just doing nothing.
Yeah. He did acknowledge your point there that more aggressive actions like banning assault weapons, which we've talked about on the show before, closing the background check loopholes, and stripping gun manufacturers of their immunity from liability lawsuits would have to wait for action from Congress. But he said it was nonetheless vital to do what he could on his own to confront what he called an epidemic of shootings that are killing roughly 100 Americans a day. We've got a long way to go.
He's not doing anything, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like all the other crises we face. Like he's moving very slow. We got a long way to go. It seems like we always have a long way to go. Biden said, like yeah, like it's very interesting, like that he takes his tack on this issue, and it's a really kind of an incredible testament to the nature of the Democratic Party. Like they always manage to like create and dramatize, the long path and the fight that they have to do to like for justice and to prove their worth in society, but also at the same time like stumble along that road all the time. That like they purposely fall in their own way so that they don't get to that path that they're telling everyone they're trying so hard to get. And that's the juggling act you kind of got to play as a Democratic leader, finding someone to blame for your lack of progress. And right now, Joe Manchin is proving a perfect foil. Biden said during his appearance in the Rose Garden, weeks after two mass shootings in Georgia and Colorado that left 18 people dead, put the
I think
administration
there was
under
another one
intense
today.
pressure.
Too.
Oh, where?
Byron, Texas.
Oh, that's a shame.
Or Bryan, Texas.
Bryan, Texas.
It's Bryan. Bryan.
Bryan, Texas. Yeah, shooting, one person dead, 5 people wounded. At a troopers in surgery at a business park, I think. So that was
and then
very
also
recent.
that NFL player also shot like 5 people.
Yeah, and then I read something that like it wasn't the NFL player.
Oh, okay, I don't know.
I don't know.
We've had a very unfortunate 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's not been good at all. And I mean, like it seems, limiting some of these weapons. I think that I'm generally kind of like more supportive of that than Zach is. Just like some more stronger action. But I do think you cannot. I definitely take what Zach said back on the 500th episode, which is that you have to like go after some of these societal issues, and that'll help alleviate a lot of this stuff as well in terms of people like being able and just create a culture of how to be safe with guns, and also create, I think it's very telling. The number one cause of gun used for a gun is to kill someone, or kill yourself. Actually, suicide. Isn't that right?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it's a very, very dark situation. But with pretty much with the moves the president announced, they fall far short of the broad legislative changes long sought by proponents of making it harder to buy guns, especially semi-automatic weapons often used in mass shootings. They address narrower issues of intense concern, though, to many Democrats and supporters of gun regulation. So the most substantive steps was to direct the Justice Department to curb the spread of ghost guns. Kits for these guns could be bought without background checks and allow a gun to be assembled with from pieces with no serial numbers. So does that clear anything up for you in terms of what he was talking about, or no?
Yeah, I think I know what he means.
Okay, so Biden said he wanted the department to issue a regulation within a month that would require the components in the kits have these serial numbers that would allow them to be traced, and that the weapons would be classified as firearms. The buyers subjected to background checks. So yeah, like that's definitely something that should have been done, but in terms of its effect, it is, as we discussed for the last 10 minutes, not going to be too much. All right, we can now move on to this Matt Gaetz situation, which is never stops. Like the layers to the stuff, and also the fact that the extortion side of it is just as interesting. The fact that they were trying to rescue this Iranian prisoner, I don't even fully understand that.
I don't
at all.
I don't think Matt Gaetz knows what extortion is, because
that wasn't extortion.
That's like shooting your hostages and then saying like you're holding them hostage. Like what why would they release the information to extort you? Like it was a failed extortion?
Yeah, and it seems like kind of
Isn't that what you said on Tucker Carlson?
It seems like a lot of like a quid pro quo more than an extortion attempt.
Yeah.
But yeah. But with
Wait, can't it be both though?
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. The point is, it is a pretty insane story, and people in the Republican Party who he has long boosted and have long stood by him in turn are turning away from him. So this is as his political career skids down really towards disaster, amid allegations that he had sex with a minor and paid for sex with a woman of legal age. Neither Trump nor anyone in the ex-president's orbit is rushing to Gaetz' defense. A group that often instinctively decries any such charge as part of some nefarious coordinated witch hunt from deep state operators has instead said virtually nothing at all. So like this is kind of the common thing that, I mean, I'm sure if you talk to anyone in like the Republican orbit, they would really they would just say, oh, we were waiting for this. This is not surprising at all. Like, because this was this was like a known thing from this guy. Like, I feel like you, like, obviously on a much less extreme scale, like you kind of get a sense of like the type of guy Matt Gaetz is, and you can just, because we all know that guy that everyone in the group hates, but also is on top of it a pedo, but it's that times 10. Like apparently this guy, he went to his dad was like a baron of Florida, incredibly rich guy, and he went to Florida State, and apparently for several years after liked to frequent the undergraduate bars to go cruising.
Yeah. I hate to interrupt here, but apparently it's been confirmed that DMX has passed away.
Oh,
unfortunately.
That's very sad to see.
Yeah,
he was dealing
really
with...
unfortunate. I thought he was gonna recover.
Yeah, it seemed like he was. There was a bunch of conflicting stories. But
that's a real shame.
That's very sad.
I wasn't an enjoyer of his music, so
yeah, we should
very upsetting.
Yeah, I think we should probably put together two episodes of Uncultured ago we did something about it, but not this week. Kind of a shame. We should maybe we'll do like a special on Saturday or something about it. Yeah, and maybe have you on because you know a lot more about his music than I probably do. So that would be definitely interesting. We'll see if we can get that in the works. But yeah, rest in peace there to DMX, 100%. So yeah, now we gotta kind of go back, talk about this situation here, and apparently something we all kind of knew and predicted. One person in Trump's post-presidential operation says not a lot of people are surprised. In the days since the news broke, the Department of Justice was looking into whether Gates had violated sex trafficking laws, an allegation he denies. No Trump aide or family member has tweeted about the Florida congressman, nor have any of the most prominent Trump surrogates and Trump-ally conservatives and media personalities, including people like Sean Hannity, Dan Bongino, Charlie Kirk, or American Conservative Union Chair Matt Schlapp, whose CPAC conference, pretty much the main picture of Gates being used in media is him at Matt Schlapp's conference. So, yeah, what do you think of Matt Gaetz' downfall? And did you see this coming? Because I mean, it was always kind of clear that something else was up with this guy. Or
he's not down yet. I mean, he's in a lot of trouble. But
are you predicting a Matt Gaetz comeback story right here on Newsflash?
He only really needs to win his congressional seat, right?
I mean, I feel like the Republicans can force him out, but it's definitely an open question if all things being considered, and he's not in jail. From the Justice Department.
Well,
I mean, he very well could win. He very well could win again.
He could also end up in jail, but I don't think he's done for the count yet. He's in a lot of hot water, but I don't think to say it's over. I think that's a bit of an early call.
His friend Joel Greenberg, the former tax collector, has 33 federal charges against him at this point. Not
Yikes.
Good. And apparently that's the guy who had just is going to sign a plea deal with the federal government or some sort of deal. Joel Greenberg. Yeah, he is he's most likely, many people say he will be singing like a bird in the prosecution. That's what that means normally when you say he's going to be pleading guilty. And it's an indication in the characterization of the New York Times that the defendant is likely to cooperate as a key witness against Gates. So, he's been pretty. He's not doing pretty well. Greenberg, he says, faces other charges, including stalking a political rival and trying to bribe a federal official. Investigators suspect he met the woman through a website that connects people willing to go on dates in exchange for gifts and allowances, and then arranged for liaisons with himself and associates, and he got Gates on the track from there. The Daily Beast reported on Friday that Trump himself was monitoring the situation. What do you think? What do you think Trump is thinking about this Matt Gaetz situation? He's got to. I think he thinks it's he's probably oh yeah, Matt Gaetz. He's disgusting.
I think he's laughing. Yeah,
he's not as good as me.
Matt
being a pervert.
Gaetz. You fool.
He's got to
couldn't get away with it like me.
Yeah, that's got to be what he's thinking there. Is you didn't take the right, you didn't learn the right way. Maybe if you had a few more years at it, you could have been like me, but no. But anyway, operatives say that Trump say the silence is owed to a variety of factors. Among them is that Gates has always been regarded as a grenade whose pin had already been pulled. The congressman had a reputation for a wild personal lifestyle, occasionally bordering on recklessness. Some of Gates' aides would regularly send embarrassing videos of their boss to GOP operatives, according to people familiar with the videos. Anyone who has spent 10 minutes with that guy would realize he's an unserious person. They invented a sexual conquest game off of the Quidditch game from Harry Potter. That's not him.
Yikes.
And
that's cringy and uncreative.
Yeah, and apparently there was one girl that if you had sex with her, that would be catching the golden snitch.
Ooh.
Is there anything more depraved?
Yeah, that's pretty demeaning, man.
Yeah, that is a, and just the snitch, the Harry Potter reference of it just is so random.
This is what our Congress men and women have time to do. I thought they were busy.
The only real the only incentive to run for office anymore is to do sex crimes. You can't change anything. You can't get any progress.
Or you could be AOC and send a highway patrol officer to somebody's house.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. That did you actually see that? I know I sent you that video. Did I?
Yeah.
Where she was just like, yeah, this is a great. This is a little bit of a sidetrack here, but it's worth it. Like this insane video of AOC just going on to answer like straight out of like Selena Meyer from Veep, being like the point is we have to get to the what, and how we get to the what is how we get to the how, and just like a bunch of like BS for like 2 minutes about Israel and Palestine.
I love Selena Meyer.
Yeah, that was a very what it's like. We need what's I don't know whatever like the many times Selena Meyer has like gone on some. Yeah, but that struck me as a very Veep. You know the person in Veep who's like Selena Meyer's friend, who's the lawyer.
Amy? Which
No,
one?
Karen.
Oh, and she gets fired in like that hotel room for being an idiot. Yes.
yeah. That was an amazing scene. Yeah, like that was who AOC reminded me of in that moment. Just blah 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 all the time. Just in the word like, it's like it's all the great lines that Amy had there. You know what? I'm gonna find that scene and play it, intersperse it.
Left butt cheek for my right butt cheek, but I believe in listening to both butt cheeks and then farting out my asshole mouth.
That's it. That's exactly what she
Even
said.
bullshit. Bullshitting takes talent. You have none. You are just a blah, 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 blah bitch.
Okay, Amy, that is enough.
I have bitten my tongue so long, it looks like a dog's cushion. But no more. You have made it impossible to do this job. You have 2 settings. No decision and bad decision. I wouldn't let you run a bath without having the Coast Guard and the fire department standing by. But yet, here you are running America. You are the worst thing that has happened to this country since food in buckets and maybe slavery. I have had enough. I'm gone.
Well, I guess she's finished with her little... Oh, nope. Look at that. There's more.
You have achieved nothing.
Uh-huh.
Apart from one thing. The fact that you are a woman means we will have no more women presidents. Because we tried one and she fucking sucked. Goodbye, ma'am.
Well, that was clearly about me. She's just one of those women who resents powerful women. Man.
Yeah, we don't have to watch the full thing, but it's very, very appropriate there. That no decision and bad decision is kind of very similar to very kind of similar to what some people are becoming increasingly frustrated with AOC about. But anyway, we are just about ready to move on to our last story, and we have some news about results, finally, for this Bessemer union election. Leaders of the effort to unionize workers at Amazon's Bessemer, Alabama fulfillment center were outraged following the revelation on Thursday that the tech titan pressured United States Postal Service into installing a private mailbox outside the warehouse just as employees began voting on the measure. Last month, the advocacy group More Perfect Union first accused Amazon of violating federal labor law by having a mailbox installed outside the Alabama facility in order to collect the ballots of the employees on the voting on the Retail, Wholesale, and Development Union to unionize these 5,805 workers. As the National Labor Relations Board began counting votes on Thursday, More Perfect Union published emails obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request that show Amazon pressing the USPS to install what the grouping called a ballot drop box during the union election. Although the emails were heavily redacted, More Perfect Union learned that starting a month before the Bessemer warehouse workers began casting their ballots, so this is around February, Amazon repeatedly called the USPS strategic account manager seeking the installation of the private box, directly contradicting what the USPS and Amazon had maintained. So, this is be a bit of a problem here. This is this is internal USPS communications linked here. We have not heard anything back on the install of this collection box. Amazon is reaching out again to me today as about the status, as they want to move quickly on this. The emails were obtained through a FOIA request, and many of these stages have been entirely redacted. So first we learned that beginning January 8th, 1 month before the union vote begins, Amazon calls the USPS strategic account manager to say they want their own box. Amazon deliberates and says a private box may not be utilized. So they originally say no, but the USPS then decides to install one for them. So they changed their mind there. That's very, very interesting. So Amazon HQ would like to be kept in the loop. Specifically, one USPS official informs the entire national and local team. Like, if this gets into a point where there's a lawsuit, and there definitely should be, a lot of this stuff should come out, and these executives will definitely be investigated, because this has to be a long campaign. Like, this is the biggest company on the face of the earth, bigger and way more powerful than most countries. So you're gonna have to go pretty hard on this. That is for sure. What we don't know for sure, but in a series of redacted emails, it appears that for over the next week, Amazon and the USPS pretty much haggle over the acquisition of the box, what kind of box can be installed, and how quickly it can be done. So they're clearly kind of uncomfortable with this, the USPS is, but Amazon is putting their foot down. On February 3rd, a USPS official sends an email stating that that is dedicating time and effort to physically altering the collection box that would meet Amazon's needs in the way that they wanted. So the USPS says it's hollowing out a box that would allow for the bulk mail ballot collection to hold more letters. Amazon's demand the USPS install the box February 7th, one day before the union vote was said to begin. And they're trying to put it on a convenient spot for the campus. So this is a clip from some of the workers talking about the box. And they would appear to be right. It seemed like Amazon was lying there. That was a union organizer, Josh Brewer, talking more perfect union. So the box was installed in the evening of February 9th, late at night under the cover of darkness. The mailbox was critical for Amazon's strategy because it wanted to pressure employees to bring ballots to work that they received at home by mail. This process was supposed to be external to work, external from the pressure of the biggest corporation in the history of the world, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. But by doing this, they could pressure and then monitor employees to submit their no votes. So this is definitely an interesting fight that, I mean, if we have our wits about us, and at least on the left, and don't kind of completely collapse like we did after Bernie 2020, should go on for a bit. Zach, what do you think about this?
I think it's far more likely that Amazon would do something illegal to mess with the labor vote than to just leave it alone, because if you think about it, like, they can only get fined so much from I'm sorry, what's the government agency that regulates
the NLRB?
They can only get fined so much from them, but what they have to lose from unionization is basically priceless. So it's sort of like how hedge funds will just insider trade and do like illegal shit because they can only really get fined like a few $1 million or whatever, but they have billions to lose.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's basically what Amazon's doing.
And the NLRB, just like the SEC and all those regulatory bodies that are supposed to go after Wall Street, they are famously toothless. They're like a joke. So It's very, very easy for them to come out and say this kind of thing. The mailbox pretty much bore no USPS identification, was installed in a tent in a parking lot outside the warehouse with a banner reading, "Speak for yourself. Mail your ballot here." So that's very nice. The Washington Post, which is owned by Amazon founder and CEO Jeff Bezos, reported that one of the reasons why the mailbox was so controversial is that the NLRB, which is supervising the customer unionization vote, had denied the company's request to install boxes at the facility, citing concerns for worker safety amid the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. So Stuart Applebaum, president of the RWDSU, accused Amazon of voter intimidation. So it certainly looks like they're not going to be going down without a fight on this. According to the RWDSU, a total of 3,215 ballots have been cast, and the total tally, the NPR reports out Thursday evening, the unofficial vote count stood at 1,100 against unionizing and 463 in favor. So not looking good there. But there still is a lot more that should come out of this fight. This is like a this is not like your normal election where there's like a basic understanding of like fairness and playing by the rules, because this is Amazon. This is the largest corporation in the history of the world that we're dealing with here. So I think that's very important to realize.
Well,
so we should push
that's
this
not
through.
true, but they're very big.
Oh, Alibaba, aren't they bigger in China?
No.
Who's bigger?
Okay, well, if we're talking about profit, I'm pretty sure Saudi America is the biggest. In terms of revenue,
Oh yeah, that's a government. That actually is a state.
If we're talking about modern companies, let's see. Walmart is the biggest in terms of revenue. Saudi America is the biggest in terms of profit. If we're talking about like biggest of all time, like the Dutch East India Company was worth
that's
trillions
pretty true.
of dollars.
And they're a lot more tied to the state. Like this is
But
like
Amazon
this is
is
like a
pretty big.
state power, like in and of themselves. Like they
Amazon
even have
has
their
a lot of
own.
power, though.
Yeah,
And they
got
have
their
a lot
own,
of influence, but they're not
a
technically
lot,
the
yeah.
biggest company.
They do have a lot. I would say they have a lot more influence than someone like Walmart, especially because they're getting into every sector. It's absolutely horrifying, and very very
They
sad
are
to see.
the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16th most, or the largest company by profit. So, yeah. There you
Yeah,
go.
in terms of influence, though, they really do. As the workers there are finding out, no bounds. That is all we got for you guys today. Really do appreciate you joining us. We will be back on Sunday.